Welcome to Colonize the Ocean podcast, where we discuss oceanic colonization, exploration, and education with your hosts Adam Jewell and Brendan Traxler.
Okay, let's unpack this because there are very few events that can just completely reshape an entire industry almost overnight. But that's really exactly what happened with deep-sea tourism right after the Titan disaster.
Absolutely. The shock waves from that implosion, they weren't just felt in, that specific niche community. They went global. It forced this really profound, immediate rethinking of what it means to go into the abyss.
Yeah, and it's not just about one single tragedy, is it? It's about how one catastrophic failure can completely recalibrate how a whole sector thinks about safety, about regulation, and even about the very idea of pushing human limits in these, well, incredibly unforgiving places on Earth.
Precisely. And today's deep dive, it's fundamentally grounded in a really crucial piece, a reassessment titled Deep Sea Tourism, a post-Titan reassessment. It just came out today, August 5th, 2025. It's this incredibly comprehensive article, and it meticulously details how the whole landscape of personal submersibles, these extreme underwater trips, has just been irrevocably changed. It gives you a really granular look at the industry before, the immediate fallout, the sort of seismic shifts in rules and regulations, and maybe most importantly, it offers a pretty clear roadmap of where this unique industry goes from here.
Yeah.
Because it is forever changed.
Right. And our mission today, it's crystal clear. We're here to cut through all the noise, to really dissect the core shifts in safety, the dramatic changes in oversight, and to genuinely try and peer into the future of venturing beneath the waves. We want to make sure that you, our listener, walk away not just knowing the facts, but really understanding the dynamics at play. What were those critical gaps, the ones maybe hidden before, that the Titan disaster just laid bare? How has this incredibly specialized, very exclusive industry responded to this level of scrutiny?
Correct.
Which is unprecedented for them.
Totally unprecedented.
And what does this whole saga mean for, the ongoing human drive to explore the deepest, darkest corners of our planet?
So before the Titan incident, the whole world of deep-sea tourism and personal subs, it was definitely an incredibly exclusive club. Oh, absolutely. Very much so.
It existed mostly, beneath the surface, both literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
A super niche market, known mostly within its own specialized circles. Think ultra-rich adventurers, some pioneering scientists, a few dedicated explorers, maybe?
Right. Not exactly mainstream knowledge.
No. If you ask the average person about manned subs for, civilian use, most wouldn't even know they existed, let alone anything about their safety. Yet, despite how extreme it is, the incredible depths, the limited public visibility, this industry had quietly, almost stealthily, built up a remarkably strong safety record, though it was largely unpublicized.
That's a key point. It was strong, but quiet.
For decades, these highly specialized vehicles, many built by really reputable firms, had taken people to astounding depths, exploring shipwrecks, hydrothermal vents, uncharted territories, all without major incident.
You think of vessels like Alvin.
Exactly, like the DSV Alvin. Thousands of dives since, 1964, including to the Titanic itself. It set a standard for reliable, repeatable, safe deep-sea access.
Decades of it.
That half-century of quiet, consistent safety, it's such a crucial baseline. It shows what was possible when you followed strict engineering, strict operational rules.
Right. It really underscores how jarring the Titan incident was.
It highlights just how seismic, how utterly shocking the shift has been since Titan.
And what's fascinating there is precisely that unpublicized aspect of its safety record you mentioned.
Yeah.
This wasn't an industry actively seeking, widespread public attention. It didn't market itself broadly. It operated with this sort of deliberate discretion, serving an ultra-high net worth clientele who, let's be honest, mostly valued privacy and exclusivity.
Right. Keep it quiet.
So consequently, you didn't have a constant stream of news about successful, safe dives hitting, CNN or the BBC.
No, not at all.
And without those dramatic incidents capturing attention, the public just didn't have much reason to form an opinion on its safety, one way or the other.
Ignorance was bliss, maybe.
Kind of. It created this paradox, didn't it? An industry with a robust, if quiet, safety track record, but operating largely outside public awareness. And that meant when the Titan disaster happened, it wasn't just seen as an isolated accident. It felt like this devastating revelation. It shattered a perception that, while generally safe, hadn't really been examined closely by the public. It ripped back the curtain.
Exposed everything.
Exposed the whole industry to this unprecedented level of scrutiny.
Yeah.
And in doing that, it allowed one single tragic event to just redefine public perception almost instantly.
Wow.
It shows how incredibly quickly trust can just evaporate, not just in one company, but in the basic assumptions about a whole sector, especially when those assumptions were, well, taken for granted or just unknown before.
Yeah.
That moment was a stark dividing line. The perception shifted immediately from, quiet high-tech adventure to potentially grave avoidable risk.
So, okay, if the reality before Titan was this kind of unheralded safety, what really flipped the script? I mean, here's where it gets really illuminating, isn't it? Because everything fundamentally changed with Titan.
The pivot point?
The U.S. Coast Guard's final report on the implosion, it wasn't just some technical summary. It was a searing indictment of OceanGate.
They did not hold back.
No, they absolutely did not mince words. The report definitively concluded the implosion was unequivocally preventable.
That word carries so much weight. Preventable.
Think about it. Preventable. It means this wasn't just bad luck or some unforeseen tech glitch or a material failure nobody could predict. This was something that, with proper foresight, sticking to known standards, different decisions, it just could have been stopped.
Right. That immediately shifts it from tragedy to culpability.
Absolutely. And then the report said it resulted from critically flawed safety practices.
Critically flawed, not minor errors.
No, it implies systemic, foundational problems in how they approach safety, from the design right through to the operation.
But it went deeper than just technical stuff, didn't it?
It did. The report pointed to a toxic workplace culture inside OceanGate, which is just chilling in an industry where lives depend on meticulous detail and open communication.
Yeah, that's deeply concerning.
And maybe the most damning finding of all, a deliberate effort to evade regulatory oversight.
Wow. Deliberate evasion.
Suggests it wasn't accidental, it was an intentional strategy. Find the loopholes, drive right through them, circumvent the systems designed to ensure safety. These findings, they didn't just explain what went wrong. They fundamentally implicated the company's whole ethos, their operating philosophy, revealed this profound disregard for established norms, for warnings.
So how do those specific phrases, those really stark terms, how do they fundamentally undermine trust and just redefine perception, both in the public eye and within the industry itself?
Well, when an accident is called preventable, like you said, it instantly shifts the blame, doesn't it? It's not unforeseen circumstances anymore, which might get some sympathy. It points towards negligence or deliberate oversight, failure of human responsibility, not just fate.
Right, shatters that idea of unavoidable tragedy.
Totally. And toxic workplace culture,
Yeah.
especially where safety is absolutely paramount. That suggests internal warnings, critical feedback, maybe legitimate concerns from engineers, they were just systematically ignored.
Or suppressed,
Or-
or even ridiculed, potentially.
Imagine engineers feeling pressured to sign off on designs they had serious doubts about, or safety officers being pushed aside for raising red flags.
Yeah, it speaks to an environment where objective risk assessment was just compromised. Maybe by internal pressures, financial goals, or this sort of misguided pioneering spirit instead of being the #1 priority.
And that phrase, deliberate effort to evade regulatory oversight, I think you're right, that's probably the most condemning one.
It feels like it. It implies a conscious choice.
A choice to circumvent the safety mechanisms that exist. Maybe prioritizing operational freedom or aggressive cost-cutting over the absolute well-being of the people inside.
These findings didn't just explain the what, they completely shattered that previous unpublicized safety perception. Painted a picture of, frankly, reckless disregard.
Yeah, the narrative flipped instantly.
From niche, high-risk, but generally safe, to unregulated, negligent, and inherently dangerous. Huge PR damage, irreparable reputation damage, rippling across the whole sector.
Forcing a reckoning.
A reckoning that was probably long overdue. It's a textbook case, really, of how one event can just reshape trust and compel an entire industry to redefine its standards overnight.
So with these devastating findings just laid bare, you saw this immediate stark divide emerge within the private sector, right? Post-disaster,
Very clear divide.
you had companies that for years had been doing things meticulously by the book, adhering to international standards. And then you had, well, OceanGate, operating in a fundamentally different way.
Two different philosophies.
Exactly. Not just one rogue company. It highlighted these two divergent approaches to operating in the deep sea with incredibly high stakes. On one side, you've got what we're now clearly calling the certified path. Think of established, reputable companies like Triton Submarines.
Right, a well-known name in the field.
Triton has this long history, decades, of designing, engineering, building certified sails for all sorts of deep-sea exploration, science, commercial work, high-end tourism. Their CEO, Patrick Leahy, he's been especially vocal, very unequivocal, advocating for the industry's existing rigorous safety standards.
He's been a strong voice for certification.
And here's a crucial fact often overlooked. Certified submersibles, the ones properly reviewed and approved by independent third parties. They have maintained a remarkable 50-year track record of perfect safety.
50 years, that's astounding.
Half a century, no major incidents causing loss of life or significant injury when operating under proper certification.
It's a powerful statistic.
It's not just compelling, it's the undeniable counter-narrative to Titan. It shows that safe deep-sea exploration isn't just possible, it has been consistently achieved by sticking to the established rules.
And this certified path you're describing, it hinges entirely on that incredibly rigorous and expensive certification process, right? Done by independent classification societies like DNV or Lloyd's Register ABS.
Right, the big names. What does that actually involve? Why is it so vital?
Well, it's far more than just a rubber stamp. It's exhaustive. It starts right at the earliest design phase. Every single component, every material chosen for that pressure hull, every system, life support, navigation, emergency power, it's all meticulously scrutinized against established engineering principles, international codes, decades of knowledge in pressure vessel design.
Wow, intense.
It includes extensive material testing. Samples get subjected to immense pressures to understand their fatigue life, their failure points. Operational protocols review deployment, recovery emergency procedure.
And it's ongoing.
Absolutely. The whole vessel undergoes frequent, often annual, physical inspections by independent surveyors throughout its entire operational life. Not just when it's built.
Okay.
It's about building in layers of redundancy, understanding every possible way things could fail, and sticking to the absolute highest standards of material science and mechanical engineering.
That sounds expensive.
It is rigorous and expensive, precisely because the deep-sea environment is so unforgiving. There is absolutely zero margin for error.
Yeah.
It's what establishes that gold standard of safety. It provides a level of assurance that experimental, uncertified approaches simply cannot, and frankly should not, try to replicate.
Right.
It ensures the engineering, construction, operation, none of it is left to individual discretion or untested theories. It's validated by independent experts following proven global methods.
And then in stark contrast, you have the experimental road, the path OceanGate explicitly chose, and one that the Titan disaster has now, tragically, turned into the ultimate cautionary tale against exactly that experimental uncertified vessels.
A very harsh lesson.
The immediate aftermath showed this profound, almost instant market reaction to this split, didn't it?
Definitely.
So what does this all really mean for the consumer, especially those incredibly wealthy individuals who make up the clientele for these extreme trips? Were they maybe seduced by the experimental idea before, or just unaware of the huge difference?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it points to a definitive, dramatic flight to quality within that market.
Flight to quality, okay.
The public, yes, but maybe even more critically, the ultra-wealthy clientele who can actually afford these expeditions. They are now exponentially more discerning.
They have to be.
They're not just content anymore with the unique experience or, the bragging rights of an experimental dive. They are demanding incontrovertible proof of safety, robust engineering, independent certification.
Non-negotiable now.
Absolutely. This has fundamentally and probably permanently shifted consumer behavior in this ultra-exclusive market. You're seeing a clear, rapid migration of trust, of business, towards the established, accredited operators, the ones on the certified path.
Makes sense.
The Titan incident, effectively and decisively just killed the market for non-certified experimental deep-sea tourist trips.
Killed it dead.
It's made it almost impossible now, both commercially and reputationally, for any company to operate in this space outside of a strict, meticulously followed safety-first framework.
Right.
It's not just a consumer preference anymore. It's the new commercial reality, non-negotiable. Any operator wanting to take people deep now knows clients will scrutinize their safety record, their engineering, their certifications like never before.
Total shift.
It implies this profound, likely permanent change in market dynamics, where perceived risk has utterly trumped any allure of novelty or any dubious claims about lower costs by cutting safety corners.
So, given those devastating Coast Guard findings and that stark industry divide that just popped up immediately, it's really no surprise, is it, that the Titan disaster acted as this profound and frankly much needed catalyst for new regulations.
Absolutely. Long overdue, many would say.
What's particularly galling, though, as the report points out, is how OceanGate managed to operate outside the established deep-sea protocols in the first place.
That's a key question.
They didn't do it by accident. They strategically created and exploited regulatory confusion, basically found the gaps and drove a submersible right through them.
Exploited the gray areas.
The most glaring example, the one that's become infamous now, was deliberately reclassifying its passengers as mission specialists.
Ah, yes, mission specialist loophole.
Right. To bypass regulations on passenger vessels. It sounds like just semantics, a bureaucratic trick, but it had deadly serious implications.
Huge implication.
It let them skirt safety requirements that apply to virtually every other vessel carrying paying customers.
That raises a really critical question, though. Why was that loophole so critical? What exactly did it let OceanGate avoid?
Yeah, what's the difference legally?
In maritime regulation, the distinction between a passenger and a mission specialist is enormous. It's like a chasm in terms of oversight.
Okay.
A vessel carrying passengers. It typically falls under really stringent maritime safety rules designed specifically to protect the public. These rules are comprehensive. They cover everything from basic vessel design, construction standards, material quality, crew qualifications, mandated emergency procedures, and crucially, regular independent inspections by classification societies or government bodies.
Right, the whole 9 yards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
By strategically reclassifying people as mission specialists or expedition participants, OceanGate essentially argued that the Titan was more like a research vessel or an experimental craft, where the occupants were active participants in an expedition, not just paying customers expecting a standard level of safety.
I see. Clever, but dangerous.
This creative reclassification let them sidestep that rigorous scrutiny, that comprehensive oversight that passenger vessels get. Investigators rightly tagged this as a key factor.
Because it created that gray area.
A dangerous gray area. It let OceanGate operate largely unregulated, which directly contributed to their ability to ignore safety warnings and use uncertified parts.
They were basically self-regulating.
In a domain where independent, objective oversight is absolutely critical for saving lives. This loophole wasn't just an oversight, it was a strategically engineered bypass of essential safety nets.
So as a direct, urgent result, you're now seeing these significant, insistent calls for stronger regulatory frameworks, not just from within the industry, but from governments worldwide.
A global reaction.
You're already seeing action. The U.S. Coast Guard's investigation specifically recommended setting up a new, dedicated industry working group.
Okay, a working group. What's its job?
Its specific task is to comprehensively review and urgently update the existing framework for manned submersibles.
Urgently hid.
And this isn't just about tweaking rules or patching small holes. There's a much broader, concerted push to expand federal requirements to make sure that all submersibles, regardless of their stated purpose, tourism, science, commercial, whatever category they might try to invent, are subject to proper, robust regulatory oversight.
Closing all the loopholes.
Exactly. The message is unequivocal. No more loopholes, no more gray areas, no more playing word games.
The necessity for that kind of working group and for expanding federal rules, it really can't be overstated, can it?
Seems critical.
Implementing new, effective regulations in a field that's evolving rapidly, high-stakes tech like deep-sea exploration, it's inherently challenging.
Sure.
You need a multidisciplinary approach.
Correct.
Bring together top experts, engineering, vessel operations, regulators, material science, get them collaborating effectively.
Makes sense.
Proper regulatory oversight at this level. It means a comprehensive, multi-layered approach. Leave no stone unturned. It means mandated design reviews, rigorous approval by independent classification societies for all deep-sea subs carrying humans.
All of them, period.
Highest standards for material certification and testing. Strict, internationally recognized operational protocols. Comprehensive crew training programs. Mandatory certification for everyone involved. And crucially, regular unannounced independent inspections throughout the vessel's entire lifespan, not just at the start.
Keep checking.
The ultimate goal is to proactively close every conceivable way for companies to dodge safety standards. Make another Titan impossible.
But what about innovation? Is there a risk of stifling that?
That's the challenge. Creating a framework that's robust enough for safety without accidentally stifling legitimate, responsible innovation. It's a delicate balance, always will be. But Titan showed that balance is absolutely non-negotiable.
And beyond just national rules, a major systemic issue that's really been thrown into sharp relief is this lack of a single overarching international body to regulate submersibles effectively.
Yeah, it's very fragmented, isn't it?
Totally. It's a patchwork quilt of rules right now. Some subs are certified by recognized bodies like DNV. Others operate completely outside that system or under different national flags with wildly varying, often much weaker standards.
Creates dangerous gaps.
Exactly. A vessel designed in one country, built in another, operated under a third flag. It can just fall through the cracks. But the disaster has prompted a really fascinating, maybe hopeful response. The rapid formation of new dedicated organizations, like the World Submarine Organization.
That's a significant development. And what's fascinating there is the potential for these new groups, like the World Submarine Organization, to really lobby hard for a universal standard.
A global baseline.
A globally recognized baseline.
Yeah.
To ensure a consistent, non-negotiable level of safety everywhere in the world.
That sounds complex to achieve.
Oh, the complexities are immense. You need genuine consensus among diverse national maritime authorities, the established classification societies, all the industry players. They all have their own legal frameworks, economic interests, histories.
Yeah, a tough negotiation.
But the benefits of a truly universal standard, they're undeniable,
Right.
compelling. It would effectively eliminate regulatory arbitrage.
What's that?
That's the dangerous practice where companies might deliberately shop around for jurisdictions with the weakest oversight to cut corners on safety and costs.
Ah, okay. Flag shopping, basically.
Sort of, yeah. A universal standard would set a non-negotiable baseline. Same high requirements whether you're diving off the U.S. coast, Europe, Asia. Consistent protection.
That makes sense.
It could lead to much stricter vetting for all international deep-sea operations, maybe requiring joint inspections, mutual recognition of certifications between different authorities.
A long-term goal, maybe?
Definitely challenging, certainly long-term. But Titan has made it undeniably urgent.
Yeah.
Ethically imperative, really. It's not just about what individual countries do now. It's how the global maritime community comes together to govern the deepest parts of our shared oceans and ensure the safety of those who dare to explore them.
Okay, so we've covered the seismic shock, the reverberations through the industry, and these immediate, urgent regulatory responses taking shape. But what does all this actually mean for the future of deep-sea tourism itself? Is this whole specialized, once secretive world just gonna, vanish?
It's a fair question.
While the Titan disaster has certainly cast this long, dark shadow and undeniably dampened the immediate enthusiasm, let's be honest, it scared a lot of people off the idea of going that deep.
Understandably.
It is highly, highly unlikely to stop deep-sea tourism entirely.
That
innate human drive to explore, to witness the truly unique, to push boundaries, touch the unknown in places few have ever seen. It's just an incredibly powerful, enduring force.
It's woven into our DNA, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's precisely it. If we connect this to the bigger picture, that inherent human curiosity, the profound allure of the unknown, the truly unparalleled experiences you get venturing into the abyss, they're simply too strong for the industry to just disappear.
Right, like space tourism or extreme mountaineering.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There will always be a segment of the population driven to explore these last frontiers. So instead, this industry isn't ending. It's poised for a profound and necessary evolution.
Evolution, not extinction.
Critically, it will evolve with a far, far greater emphasis on safety and accountability. That will now be the absolute bedrock. Everything else is built on top of that.
Okay.
This isn't an end. It's a transformation, moving it from a kind of wild frontier into a more mature, more responsible, and ultimately safer industry. emerging from tragedy.
So the demand for the experience stays.
The demand for those unparalleled experiences will endure, but the market will now prioritize safety as the absolute non-negotiable foundation.
Okay, so one direct, immediate consequence of this dramatic shift, flowing right from the increased regulations and the demand for higher standards, it's going to get even more expensive, right?
Also, certainly.
And by extension, even more exclusive than it already was. The increased cost of sticking to these strict safety protocols, going through rigorous multi-year certifications, doing frequent independent inspections, implementing top-tier crew training, all these essential safety measures, they'll inevitably get passed on to the consumers. There's no other way to absorb those kinds of significant, necessary investments.
And that raises an important question. What are the concrete economic implications of that inevitable price hike? Who's ultimately going to be able to afford this kind of extreme tourism?
Yeah, the pool shrinks even more.
The clientele was already ultra-high net worth individuals, right?
Yeah.
People for whom multi-million-dollar experiences aren't out of the ordinary. But these new safety mandates will likely push the price point even higher, making it accessible to an even smaller, even more exclusive slice of the global ultra-rich.
Right.
I mean, consider this. A high-end certified personal sub can cost tens of millions of dollars just to build, plus millions annually to operate and maintain, including those rigorous certification renewals.
Wow.
With increased regulation, those costs only go up. This could lead to a significant contraction, fewer operators.
There are fewer trips available.
And consequently, fewer, but undoubtedly more meticulously planned, safer, and, supremely executed expeditions. It reshapes the clientele, creates this sort of platinum tier of deep-sea adventure, attracting individuals who value that absolute assurance of safety, verifiable through independent certification, above everything else.
Safety becomes the ultimate luxury good.
In a way, yes. It creates a market where the cost of entry for operators is incredibly high, so the cost to consumers has to transparently reflect that huge investment in safety, reliability, and unparalleled expertise.
Now, another shift, and potentially a really positive one, is that there might be a renewed focus, maybe even a mandated one, on tying these incredibly expensive, high-risk expeditions to legitimate scientific research.
That's a really interesting angle.
It's not entirely new, is it? It echoes that historical precedent set by many subs exploring the Titanic wreck in the past, or those used for deep-sea biology surveys.
Right. Linking adventure with discovery.
It provides a far more compelling and, frankly, ethically defensible purpose than just pure tourism. It elevates it beyond just a thrill ride for the rich.
And what's fascinating there is how that integration of tourism and science could fundamentally provide a more compelling and ethically defensible purpose for such high-risk ventures.
Right. Gives it more meaning.
When a deep-sea trip isn't just sightseeing, but actively contributes to our collective understanding of the ocean's unexplored ecosystems, its unique geology, or maybe climate change impacts down there, it significantly shifts public perception. It moves from pure luxury tourism towards purposeful exploration. It might attract different types of wealthy patrons, sure, but it also opened doors to scientific collaborations, grant funding, broader public support maybe.
So for you, the listener, it might seem less like just an extravagant joyride.
Exactly. More like a vital contribution to knowledge and conservation, even if it's privately funded. What kind of science could benefit?
Yeah, what could they do down there?
Think about identifying new species in unexplored trenches, monitoring active hydrothermal vents for unique life forms, studying deep sea currents and their role in global climate, even just mapping uncharted seafloors for geological insights.
Lots of possibilities.
This symbiotic integration could genuinely elevate the whole industry.
Yeah.
Give it greater meaning, greater justification, beyond just adventure for adventure's sake.
And finally, a definitive, unequivocal end to the kind of, ad hoc, opaque operations we saw with Titan.
Absolutely. That era has to be over.
Future deep-sea operations will be, without exception, heavily vetted. Operators will have no choice but to be completely transparent about their vessel's safety wreckings, their engineering principles, the materials used, the extensive experience and qualifications of their crew.
Total transparency.
The days of experimental, unsanctioned deep-sea voyages for tourists are, thankfully, unequivocally over. It's not just a recommendation, it's the new operating mandate.
And this implies a level of continuous scrutiny, of accountability, that goes way beyond just a one-time certificate or ticking boxes.
Right, ongoing vigilance.
Heavily vetted means an unwavering, ongoing commitment to safety. From the very top leadership, right down through every single crew member. It needs robust, regularly updated training, rigorous emergency drills, and crucially, a proactive, embedded culture of accountability within the company itself.
How does that look for the consumer, the client?
For the discerning consumer, this new transparency will show up in concrete ways. Detailed pre-expedition briefings that disclose all the safety certifications, the operational protocols, readily accessible documents proving independent safety checks, material approvals, clear, comprehensive communication about contingency plans, emergency response capabilities.
Yes, mind, basically.
It means knowing with absolute certainty that the vessel was designed, built, meticulously maintained to the highest international standards, that the crew isn't just experienced but highly trained, regularly drilled for every conceivable emergency, and that there are rigorous, independently verified operational protocols for every single phase of the dive. This profound shift, it's not just a regulatory burden. It's an industry-wide commitment to prioritizing human life above absolutely everything else. Ensuring the allure of the deep is met with an equally profound dedication to verifiable safety.
Okay, now, while the overwhelming consensus in the devastating wake of Titan is that stricter regulations are not just essential, but an absolute imperative, we do need to acknowledge that a few arguments against them did exist.
It's important to understand those perspectives, too.
And they were put forth quite forcefully, especially by Stockton Rush, the CEO of OceanGate himself.
Right. He was very vocal.
These arguments, though they're significantly less prominent now and largely discredited by events, they reflect a certain view on innovation and freedom that was, well, controversial even before the tragedy.
Definitely controversial.
It's important for us to present these arguments fairly, look at their foundations, before we dissect why they were ultimately flawed and tragically proven wrong. So one of the core arguments Stockton Rush made repeatedly, and you still hear echoes of it in other high-risk, cutting-edge fields, is that strict regulations inherently stifle innovation.
The classic argument.
His idea was that existing maritime rules were too prescriptive. They told you exactly how to do things, down to the last bolt, instead of just specifying the safe outcome you needed to achieve.
Performance standards versus prescriptive rules.
Exactly. He believed these rules were outdated, designed for older tech like steel subs, and just weren't suited for the kind of rapid, disruptive innovation he claimed he was pursuing. For Rush, certification from bodies like DNV was, in his own words, a waste.
A waste, wow.
A waste of time, a waste of capital. He felt it needlessly prioritized passenger safety over commercial innovation. That was his view.
A very stark trade-off, he perceived.
He fundamentally argued that this highly regulated environment creates a slow, bureaucratic, immensely expensive process that actively discourages new ideas, stifles breakthroughs, prevents using cutting-edge materials or radical new designs. He genuinely believed that without that freedom, companies couldn't experiment with novel concepts like the Titan's carbon fiber hull.
Which he saw as revolutionary.
Right, a groundbreaking step forward, offering unprecedented depth, lighter weight. His vision, as he presented it, was one where agility, entrepreneurial spirit, advanced materials science could unlock new depth, but only if unburdened by what he saw as obsolete or overly cautious rules.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the Titan disaster itself just stands as the most powerful and tragically devastating counter to that exact claim.
Hindsight is 20/20, but yeah.
What Rush championed is innovation specifically. That carbon fiber hull was precisely and tragically its ultimate downfall. It was a material choice not approved for deep-sea manned submersibles by any reputable classification society, for exactly the reasons that led to the implosion. Its unpredictable fatigue characteristics, its catastrophic failure modes under extreme, repeated pressure cycles.
They knew it was risky.
The established science indicated extreme risk. This tragic outcome suggests that in an environment as unforgiving, as absolute as the deep sea, a precise, carefully considered balance between innovation and proven, independently validated safety standards isn't a luxury. It's an absolute non-negotiable necessity.
Yeah.
True innovation, in this context, it has to occur within parameters that are rigorously tested, independently verified, built on decades of accumulated engineering knowledge.
Not just throwing stuff at the wall.
It's about pushing boundaries safely, through methodical experimentation, peer review, not ignoring them in the name of speed or cost. The immutable laws of physics in the deep ocean. They don't care about your innovative spirit if your fundamental engineering is flawed.
Good point.
This incident starkly shows that some kinds of innovation can be catastrophically dangerous if they aren't grounded firmly in proven safety principles and independent oversight. The drive for novelty cannot and must not supersede the imperative of human safety.
Okay, then a second argument. often put forth by proponents of less regulation, and it aligns closely with some of Russia's views, centers on the high costs. The significant barriers to entry that regulations undeniably create.
The cost argument.
The idea is that regulations, especially requiring independent certification, frequent inspections, adhering to complex standards, they're just inherently expensive to comply with.
They certainly add cost, no doubt.
Proponents of this view suggested these costs create an insurmountable barrier for smaller, maybe more agile startups trying to get into innovative high-tech markets. They argued this system inherently favors the big, established players with deep pockets, existing infrastructure, creates an oligopoly, limits competition, keeps prices artificially high.
Protects the incumbents, essentially.
From that perspective, without the freedom to operate with lower overhead by avoiding those costly certifications and design reviews, a company like OceanGate would never have been able to offer its trips at the relatively lower price point it did.
Right.
Thus, they argued, making deep-sea exploration inaccessible to a wider audience. It was almost framed as this necessary democratization of the deep, hindered by traditional, expensive safety protocols.
But this raises that crucial question again. What's the true cost here? And whose perspective are we using to evaluate it?
Yeah, cost of compliance versus cost of failure.
The Titan disaster demonstrated with horrifying, undeniable clarity that the financial burden of robust compliance, while significant, is demonstrably exponentially smaller than the catastrophic cost of avoiding those regulations. The human cost 5 lives lost and a preventable tragedy that's incalculable. It transcends any monetary value.
Absolutely.
But even beyond that, just consider the massive price tag of that international search and rescue operation.
Huge effort.
Multinational effort, sophisticated naval assets, cutting-edge subs, specialized ROVs, days of intense round-the-clock work from multiple international agencies. The cost must have been enormous, surely runs into the tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. That far outweighs the upfront costs of proper certification, meticulous engineering, ongoing safety protocols for an entire fleet of subs.
Good point. A powerful economic argument for safety.
What's fascinating here is how the incident has shown that a race to the bottom on safety isn't just profoundly unethical, putting lives at unconscionable risk. It's also fundamentally unsustainable. Economically, reputationally. The catastrophic reputational damage to the whole industry, the inevitable legal fallout, the direct financial outlay for the disaster response. It creates an irrefutable counterargument. Cutting corners on safety is actually the most expensive, most damaging approach in the long run. There's just no such thing as cheap, deep-sea exploration when safety is compromised.
Then there's the third argument, sometimes implicit, sometimes stated outright, that the paying customers on these extreme trips, they're fully aware of the risks. They willingly accept them by signing these extensive legal waivers.
The personal responsibility argument.
The idea is very individualistic, isn't it? If a person, a consenting adult, understands and accepts the dangers of an activity, extreme sports, high-altitude climbing, a deep-sea dive, then they should be free to do it. And by extension, the company providing the service shouldn't be held to an overly strict regulatory standard because the participants have, essentially, signed off on the danger. Absolve the company of certain liabilities.
Places the onus squarely on the individual adventurer. But if we connect this to the broader legal and ethical picture, the U.S. Coast Guard's scathing report on Titan directly challenges that. In fact, I'd argue it completely dismantles the personal responsibility argument as it applies to this specific case.
How so?
The report found OceanGate cultivated that toxic workplace culture and, critically, systematically ignored numerous urgent safety warnings from internal employees, including their own chief submersible pilot, and from external industry experts.
Right, the warnings were ignored.
This is crucial because it fundamentally undermines the whole premise of informed consent. How can someone truly consent to risk? How can they make an informed decision when they are likely unaware of the full concealed extent of the risks involved?
Especially if warnings were actively suppressed.
Or ignored, or ridiculed internally. Furthermore, the report highlighted the company's deceptive practices, such as fraudulently representing the vessel's safety and registration.
Outright fraud.
That completely invalidates the idea that passengers were fully informed participants. Informed consent requires absolute transparency, a complete, honest understanding of the actual dangers, not just the generalized risks of going deep.
Not just signing a paper.
Exactly.
When a company actively conceals, misrepresents, or outright lies about its safety practices and the integrity of its vessel, the idea of an individual willingly accepting risks, through a waiver becomes utterly meaningless.
Yeah, the consent wasn't truly informed.
It shifts the culpability squarely back onto the operator for their profound negligence, their lack of transparency, their deceptive actions.
So ultimately, while these arguments against stricter regulations, the cries about stifling innovation, the claims of prohibitive costs, the appeal to personal responsibility, while they did exist and were voiced, the overwhelming, undeniable evidence and the tragic outcome from the Titan disaster, it's led to this near-universal consensus within the industry, among regulators, across the public sphere.
A hard-won consensus.
The message now seems unequivocally clear. Enhanced oversight isn't just beneficial, it's an absolute critical imperative for ensuring both the immediate safety and the long-term viability of deep-sea tourism and personal submersibles.
The tragedy, in a really painful and profound way, it seems to have solidified a new, non-negotiable standard for how humanity ventures into the deep, demanding transparency, accountability, and an unwavering commitment to safety. Hashtag outro. So just to recap this deep dive then, we've really witnessed nothing short of a profound and painful transformation in the deep-sea tourism industry.
A sea change, quite literally.
From this previously niche market operating largely in the shadows with an unpublicized safety record, it's been utterly reshaped by the searing lessons of Titan. We've explored that dramatic shift to a mandatory, non-negotiable safety-first culture, driven by the Coast Guard's scathing findings exposing not just critical design flaws, but deliberate evasion of safety protocols. This created that unmistakable stark divide, pushing the whole industry decisively towards certified, meticulously vetted operations like Triton's, and definitively away from any experimental, uncertified tourist ventures.
Right, a clear flight to quality.
New regulatory pushes are rapidly underway, strengthening national frameworks, closing loopholes. That urgent global call for a universal standard may be spearheaded by new groups like the World Submarine Organization.
Lots of movement on that front.
And the future of deep-sea tourism itself, poised to be significantly more expensive, more exclusive, likely tied more closely to legitimate scientific research to give it greater purpose, and unequivocally, meticulously, transparently vetted.
And what's truly fascinating here, I think, is how one singular tragic event can so powerfully crystallize an entire industry's priorities.
Yeah.
Forcing this necessary, albeit painful, reevaluation of risk, of corporate responsibility, and of the very definition of innovation itself when human lives are actually at stake.
Yeah.
Those counterarguments we discussed, the claims about stifling innovation, prohibitive costs, the misplaced idea of personal responsibility, they've just been decisively rebutted by the stark, undeniable reality of the Titan's implosion. It underscores with devastating clarity that safety isn't a luxury. It's not an optional add-on. It is the absolute foundational principle, the non-negotiable prerequisite for venturing into such extreme, unforgiving environments on our planet.
So what does this all mean for you as someone trying to understand the complexities of our modern world as we navigate this increasingly technologically advanced yet inherently risky world? How do we as individuals, as a society, how do we critically balance that undeniable ancient human drive for exploration and innovation?
That deep desire to push boundaries.
That deep-seated desire to push boundaries, to discover what lies beyond the known. How do we balance that with the non-negotiable paramount imperative of safety, especially when we're venturing into the last, most extreme frontiers right here on Earth?
It's a profound question.
It really is. It extends far beyond the depths of the ocean, doesn't it? Touches upon every cutting-edge human endeavor. Something to think about.